Week 13 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few tight ends that looked it off the wire this week. The first tight end, Noah Gray of the Kansas City Chiefs. I know he's the backup tight end, but this Chief team very limited at the wide receiver position where they're running a lot of two tight end sets, and Noah Gray has been a favorite of Mahomes over the last couple weeks, and he's outperformed Travis Kelce as well the last 2 weeks. Week 11 at Buffalo, 4 catches, 23 yards, 2 touchdowns. And week 12 at Carolina, 4 catches, 66 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So the last 2 games, 4 touchdowns for Noah Gray. He's a big target, and he's a good yard after catch, tight end as well. And coverage is not rolling his way with teams focusing, obviously, on Travis Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins in the deep ball threat in Xavier Worthy. He's pretty much roaming the seam, and he's making the most of his opportunities and finding the end zone. So this week with a great matchup on Black Friday versus the Vegas Raiders that give up the most fantasy points to tight ends on the season. Noah Gray, I think you could go out there and get him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out there once again and possibly finds the end zone. And he's out there in 96% of fantasy leagues. Next tight end, Zach Ertz of the Washington Commanders. So very surprising. He's still out there in 52% of fantasy leagues. Zach Ertz, number 2 target on this offense in the passing game. Like I've said all season long, behind Terry McLaurin. I know he's up there in age, but he still has an IQ, and he's still a good route runner. In the last 2 weeks, he's putting up big numbers. Is Ertz. Week 11 at Philly, 6 catches, 47 yards, a touchdown, and 2-point conversion. In week 12 versus the Cowboys, 6 catches, 38 yards, and a touchdown. So the targets have been there. Him and Jaden Daniels are locked in. And this Commander team, obviously, they've definitely been struggling the last 3 weeks, losing. So they want to get back to their winning ways. And this week, week 13 versus Tennessee, it's going to be a scrappy type of ball game, I believe, between these two teams. But Zach Ertz, he's going out there. He's putting up numbers, and the veteran still has some left in the tank, and he's available in 52% of fantasy teams. And I say this a lot in the videos as well. Anytime a tight end is that number 2 or 3 target in the offense, he's pretty valuable. Say another team, if you got great running back, good receivers, that tight end is going to be a 4th or 5th option, and obviously not be a consistent option for fantasy owners. So right now, while Ertz has been the number 2 option, and he's putting up points pretty much all season long, definitely a tight end to get off the wire. Next tight end, Cole Kmet of the Chicago Bears. So I know Cole Kmet, it's been up and down all season long, and that's what happens when you got a young rookie in Caleb Williams and an offensive line that isn't all that great. But Kmet, he came out in last week's ball game. His best game since week 6 was Cole Kmet. So the last few weeks, week 10 versus New England, 2 catches, 13 yards. Week 11 versus the Packers, 3 catches, 42 yards. And week 12, like I said, versus Minnesota, whopping 10 targets in that game, 7 catches, 64 yards. So we saw DJ Moore have a big game. We saw Keenan Allen have a big game. And that was just a big game overall in a must-win for the Chicago Bears. But they free-falled now. Ever since their bye week, they've lost 5 in a row from week 8 to week 12. So week 13, another matchup where they're going to be trailing early and often, I believe, in this one at the Detroit Lions. And they're going to have to play catch-up in garbage time. So I think Cole Kmet actually could go out there once again and pad some stats. And he's available in 53% of fantasy leagues. Next tight end, Luke Schoonmaker of the Dallas Cowboys. So he filled in very well, I thought, with Schoonmaker. 3 catches, 55 yards, and a touchdown for the concussed Jake Ferguson. So a quick turnaround the Thursday game. And we'll see if Ferguson is ready to go in that one. But Schoonmaker definitely has a good rapport with Cooper Rush, where they were working with the second team all season long until Dak Prescott went down with injury. Week 11 versus Houston, 6 catches, 56 yards, 10 targets. In week 12, like I said, at the Commanders, I know the targets weren't great, but 3 catches, 55 yards, and a touchdown. So week 13, a good matchup versus a Giant defense that can't stop anyone, even though they've played tight ends well this season. But Schoonmaker, like I said, him and Cooper Rush have the rapport. And if Ferguson's out again, he's out there in 89% of fantasy leagues. And the final tight end that looked at off the wall is Austin Hooper of the New England Patriots. So Austin Hooper, he's actually been putting up numbers over the last 3 weeks, 7.5 or more fantasy points in PPR leagues in the 3-week span. Week 10 at the Bears, 3 catches, 64 yards, 4 targets. Week 11 versus the Rams, 4 catches, 35 yards. In week 12 at Miami, 4 catches, 59 yards, and a touchdown. So he's going out there. He's putting up numbers. He's Austin Hooper over the last few weeks as number 2 tight end. And him and Drake May, they've been locked in, working with the second team as well early in the season. So that rapport, it's a big thing, and especially a tight end is a big security blanket, and a quarterback's best friend is a rookie like Drake May. So Austin Hooper, I know it's a deep league type ad, but like I said, the last 3 weeks he's gone out there and produced, and he's out there in 99% of fantasy leagues. That's a few tight ends I looked at off the wire for week 13 of the fantasy football season.